Case number 9022, Baker High School versus Gerald Harding.
You may be seated. You are the sole judges of credibility, that is, the believability of all witnesses testifying in this case, and of the weight, that is, the importance, to be given their testimony. In judging their effect of evidence, you must be fair and impartial and not arbitrary. While you have discretion in judging the effect of evidence, you must exercise that discretion in accordance with these instructions. The evidence presented by one witness, whom you believe is sufficient for the proof of any fact in this case. You are not bound to decide any fact based upon the testimony of a larger number of witnesses whose testimony does not convince you against the testimony of a smaller number of witnesses or against a presumption or other evidence which does convince you. In determining what facts are in the case, it may be necessary for you to determine what weight should be given to the testimony of each witness. To do this, you should carefully consider all testimony given, the circumstances under which each witness has testified, and every matter in the evidence that tends to indicate whether a witness is worthy of belief. You may consider the appearance of the witness on the stand, their manner of testifying, their apparent candor, the apparent fairness, their apparent intelligence, their knowledge and means of knowledge on the subject upon which they have testified, whether the witness have an interest in the outcome of the case or any motive, bias, or prejudice, the extent to which the witnesses are either supported or contradicted by the other evidence in the case, the capacity of the witnesses to perceive and communicate information, proof that the witness has a bad character of truthfulness. If you believe that any witness has willfully testified falsely as to any material matter in this case, you must reject such testimony as you believe to have been false, and you have the right to view the rest of the testimony with distrust. In your discretion, disregard it, unless, after examination of all evidence, you find such testimony worthy of belief. This rule does not apply if a witness unintentionally commits an error in a witness testimony or is unintentionally mistaken as to some matters or facts about which the witness testifies, or gives evidence concerning matters not material in the case without intention or deceiving the court or jury. Prosecution, are you ready?
Yes.
Defense, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Prosecution, you may begin your opening statement.
All right. Your Honors, members of the jury, my name is Sadie Harbaugh, and I and my co-counsel are representing the people in this case. We intend to prove that Gerald Harding is guilty of arson in the first degree. The evidence will not show you, not only did he have the weight, he had the means. Gerald Harding is a nobody. He's a 72-year-old man, and all of his misery in his life stems from this high school. He's a grouchy man who bullies kids. He hated his job, and he was ready to see it burn to the ground. The defense is going to sway you away from Gerald, with other people's motives and means, but none of them will match up like Gerald's. February 18, 1967, Gerald Harding went to the school in the morning. He tinkered with the boiler, which is where he saw Roger's wrench. And afterwards, he delivered groceries to his ex-wife to show his alibi. The evidence will show that Gerald left fingerprints on the toolbox and left his gloves, his leather gloves he always worn, by the electrical box. Evidence will conclude that Gerald's fingerprints on the fire alarm, meaning he pulled it to make himself look like the hero. But he was wrong. The prosecution will call Roger Charles, and Roger will conclude he was out to a late breakfast that morning with his girlfriend that has the meal ticket to prove it, with 2 orders and the time. Next, we will call Annette Johnson to the stand to listen to her story about breakfast that morning. Lastly, we will call Benjamin Charles to conclude his own personal experience with Gerald Harding. I submit you to find the accused guilty Thank you for your consideration.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury opposing counsel, my name is Hannah Gord, representing Gerald Harding in this action. On February 18, 1967, a terrible action was committed at Baker High School. A disastrous fire destroyed the school, leaving students without a place to learn, teachers without a place to teach, and janitors without a place to work. My client was not the arsonist that caused this fire. Yes, he had been at the school that morning on request of a teacher. My client saw another individual at the school the morning of the fire, one who had no known reason to be there. But he had left the school and was kindly helping out his friend and ex-wife. He was buying and delivering groceries to a woman who was unable to do so herself. He spent the late morning and early afternoon with her. It is not possible that Gerald could have started this fire. First, you will hear from the prosecution about a boy who despised a man just trying to do his job. You will hear from this boy's brother and his girlfriend. Then you will meet and hear the defense, a firefighter who sees the defendant as a father, the ex-wife and long-life friend of the defendant, and the defendant himself, a man who wants to do his best for the kids of the school and for the people he cares about. Finally, you will listen to closing arguments, and you will know that it is not possible for Gerald to be guilty. He is innocent in this case and should not be punished for a crime he did not commit.
Prosecution, you may call your first witness.
I call Roger Charles as my first witness. Roger, had you been in the school previous to the fire?
Yes.
Can you specify which day?
Friday.
Why did you go to the school and work on the boiler on Friday?
What?
Why did you go to the school and work on the boiler on Friday?
Because Miss Richard said her room was cold.
Can you give me us a brief recap on what you did during the day of the fire?
The day of the fire. Went to go get breakfast with Annette, and then
Around what time?
around 10.
Around 10. And what did you guys do that night?
That night we went to dinner,
And were you with Annette?
Yes.
From breakfast to dinner? That's everything, Your Honor.
defense, your witness.
Prosecutor, she gets to
Yeah,
cross,
cross-examine.
so, but that's why you say defense is your witness. Because she gets to ask questions.
What time did you wake up on that Saturday morning?
6.
You woke up at 6.
Yes.
When was the last time you were at the school?
Friday night.
Friday night. Do you recognize this toolbox?
Yes.
Whose toolbox is it?
Gerald.
Have you you ever used Gerald's toolbox?
Yes.
So that would stand to reason why your fingerprints were on this wrench that is in the toolbox. In Annette Johnson's witness statement, she says you work as a mechanic and electrician's assistant. Is this true? Are you familiar with the mechanics of an electrical box as an electrician's assistant?
Yes.
So you are familiar with how to work with both an electrical box and a boiler?
Yes.
So you would know what a corrupt and dangerous electrical box and boiler would look like and how it became that way?
Yes.
When was the last time you worked at the electrical box in the school? Friday night. In your witness statement, it says that you were working on just the boiler Friday night. And that is correct. No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, you want to redirect, or are you going to call your next witness?
I'm going to call my next witness. Your Honor, the defense calls Annette Johnson to the stand. How are you doing today, Annette?
Good.
Good. Are you and Roger Charles dating?
Yes.
How long have you guys been dating?
About 4 years.
About 4 years. What were you guys doing that Saturday? Can you recap in your words how your Saturday went with Roger?
We went to breakfast around 10, and then after breakfast, I went home, did some chores, and then we went to dinner around 10.
Did Roger go to the school that day?
I think so.
On Saturday?
Not on Saturday.
So for clarification, Roger did not go to the school on Saturday. Do you think Roger would do something like this?
Absolutely.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense, your witness.
Annette Johnson, what is your relation to Roger?
He's my friend.
What time did you wake up on that Saturday morning?
Around 8:30.
Around 8:30. And when did you eat breakfast?
Close to 10.
Close to 10. And when did you leave the restaurant?
About 10:40ish.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Want to redirect?
Yeah, I'm going to redirect. So, when you woke up that next morning, was Roger still there? Was Roger at the house when you woke up? What time did Roger get home at?
Around 7:30.
And you woke up at 8:30? And he was with you the rest of the day after that? No? What time did Roger leave you?
After we ate breakfast.
So what time did he come back?
Came back around 5:30 to pick us for dinner.
No further questions, Your Honor.
I object.
And it's the jury done.
The defense calls the next witness, Benjamin Charles. Hello, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. What were your experiences with Gerald Harding in the school? If you can explain a few of them to us.
Gerald seemed angry. He seemed to display his anger towards students. He seemed to never enjoy his time in school. If kids were in his way, instead of saying, "Excuse me," he'd shrug them out. And it seemed abnormal for an adult to act such a way around children.
Has he ever done anything to you personally?
there was one time I was standing in the hallway talking to a friend, and he was behind me, and I did not see him. I then remember being pushed forward, thinking it was a student, but it actually turned out to be Gerald. I didn't say anything. Kept on.
So what was Gerald's view towards the children at the school? Like his general overall view?
He seemed very, how can I say this? Not angry at them, but how do I say this? He seemed like he hated them. Just that he never wanted to be around them, and when he was, he seemed miserable.
Have you ever seen Gerald not around kids and be happy? Have you ever seen him in a good mood at the school?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense, your witness.
Benjamin, in your own words, what is your opinion of Gerald?
He seems like a kind man, but he has never displayed it around the kids at school.
Okay. And so you're familiar with this through your own personal experiences of Gerald seeming to not like you,
Yes.
or the other kids.
Yes.
In your witness statement, you specifically state that Gerald Harding hates the kids.
Yes.
And so you're assuming he hates the kids.
Yes.
Has Gerald ever once said he hates the kids?
No.
In this journal we have from the evidence of Gerald Harding's, it's his journal. He says that he made soup Friday night, and Saturday he was also cleaning it up while also working on the boiler. What did you think when he made the soup for the kids?
It seemed like a polite gesture, but his mannerisms during seemed as they usually did. He didn't seem happy to do it.
Can you explain specifically his mannerisms?
Slumped shoulders, he was slouched over, never shared a smile. He kept a plain face.
Could the reason he's slumped because at the time he was 69 years old?
Possible.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, would you like to redirect?
No. Your Honor.
Do you have any other witnesses?
Can I call witnesses on that right now? Okay. Yeah, the prosecution would like to call Betty Richards to stand. Don't be How are you today, Betty?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
That's amazing. Actually, I was wondering, did you fill out a lesson planner that talks about Roger loitering outside and was supposed to tell the principal? Was that you?
I don't think so, no.
No.
I don't ever, my lesson plan is normally filled with the lesson plans.
Okay.
My diary.
What was your experience with Gerald Harding?
Gerald and me, honestly, it was very work related, nothing else.
Let me restate that question.
Yeah,
Did you like Gerald Harding?
he was just a coworker. That was, oh, not a coworker, more of a acquaintance.
An acquaintance?
Yeah,
Records show that you asked Gerald plenty of times to fix the boiler.
correct.
Did he ever do that before the day of the fire?
No, I ended up asking Roger to
Roger?
come and work on it. I talked to the superintendent.
Okay. So Roger did have clearance to be in the school Friday night to work on the boiler.
Correct. And then I ended up actually seeing him that day after work. We went out to dinner, and him and his girlfriend were there.
And did Roger look discombobulated when you saw him at dinner? Did he look like he just set fire to the school?
No, he was happy. He was with his girlfriend, and we talked actually. I talked to them and asked how he was doing and how it went. working with the boy, and he said he thought he got it to work, so I was excited to come back to school Monday with a nice
So further clarification, you did not write that lesson plan.
No, I did not.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor?
Defense, your witness.
You can take it.
Mrs. Richards?
Yes. Sorry.
It says in your witness statement that you often found Roger in the boiler room while he was still in school playing cards, correct?
Yes, I did.
So would you say Roger was fairly familiar with the boiler room?
Probably. Normally, just when I'm playing cards in there, and I always have to shoot them away. But
Okay. Mrs. Richard, when was the last time you made cookies?
with the kids at school,
It says in your lesson plan or book that you have a cookie recipe in here.
what recipe? I don't know. We haven't made cookies in a while, that's for sure.
Were you planning to make cookies?
Yeah, so on Monday I did tell the students that we were gonna have a fun day.
Okay. I have right here, if you want to look at it, a dropout form of Roger Charles. That is your signature name on it, correct?
Correct.
All right, it says he was expelled. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think, yes.
The box is checked and expelled. That's correct.
Looks like it.
And he was expelled for behavior of difficulty, many absences, no interest.
Yeah.
So what I'm guessing is Roger did not like school. He did not like learning, didn't like being there.
Well, I can't answer for Roger, but when I worked there with Roger, I tried to make it the best experience that he could. He was a hardworking person, and I know that if, I can't say that, if I was like a better teacher, I feel like I did all that I could for him.
I'm sure you did. Did Roger ever talk to you about any other teachers?
Not in particular.
Did he ever express any negative emotions about anything to do with the school?
Not me, I can remember now.
Did you ever see him possibly expressing negative emotions? Not directly telling you, but after that.
Yeah, probably with his actions being at school, just, you know, kids, if you don't want to be at school, or how do I say this? Acting out, I guess you could say. But all students act out.
Did he act out more than most of his others peers?
Not really. I don't know.
You don't. No further questions, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'd like to redirect. This is your lesson plan book, is it not?
Yes.
And this is not your handwriting.
No, that is not my handwriting.
Mine will have to turn correctly through. And you did not make this entry in your lesson planner.
No, I'm left-handed, so. Anyone that's ever hard anyway.
No.
What am I allowed to do now?
You can show them. Yeah. You can give it to them and they can, yep.
This is Betty Richards' lesson planner, and this is Gerald Harding's journal. Another question, can I talk about the ink thing that we did?
It's evidence. It's evidence. You enter it into evidence. You have to ask the judge to show about it. Where's your packet with your evidence test?
Yeah.
Sure with your, yeah. So you would say the prosecution enters into exhibit, or into, enters in exhibit A, whatever it is,
Okay.
and then but she has to look at it first, the judge does.
Oh, okay.
Either allowed or not allowed.
I'm going to exhibit to you evidence A and B. There was tests run on the ink in both Gerald Harding's journal and Betty Johnson's lesson planner. The ink was the same, and the handwriting was the same. Take that as you will. No further questions, Your Honor. I throw that little stuff in there. Slamming me right now. Put your witnesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any other witnesses?
No, all right, no. No other witnesses, Your Honor.
Defense, your first witness.
The defense would like to call Peter James Houston.
Thank you. Here you go, Peter. I'm just going
Peter, what is your relationship with Gerald Harding?
Excuse me, you repeat that slower.
Peter, what is your relationship with Gerald Harding?
He's like a father to me.
Do you think Gerald was a loving father figure?
In what ways?
Did he show kindness to you?
In ways that Gerald showed kindness, I suppose.
Did Gerald enjoy his job?
I'm assuming so, considering he was there for so long.
Did he ever mention any intent of leaving his job?
Not that I heard of.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, your witness.
You said to clarify, you don't actually know if Gerald left his job. You have no proof.
He never talked to me about it.
And why would you think he would stay so long at that school? You think maybe he just couldn't find another job that would take him?
It bought him money.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense, would you like to,
Redirect.
redirect?
No.
You may step down. Defense, do you have any other witnesses?
The defense would like to call Barbara Harding to the stand.
Okay, which Barbara is this to?
There's two. One's Hutchinson, that's the person who called me.
Oh, Bertha, that's Bertha.
Bertha, that's it. It's the same last name as the defendant.
Barbara, did Gerald have any intent of leaving his job?
No, he did not.
And what what is your opinion on your ex-husband, Gerald?
My opinion is he is a little crabby, I will say, but he's a good person. He's always been a friend to me. I don't see him ever doing anything to harm anyone else.
How do you get your income?
Gerald helps me pay my bills because I'm unable to work.
On Saturday, what time did you call Gerald to get your groceries?
I called him at 9 a.m. and he answered the phone.
Where was he?
He was at his house.
All right, and when did he leave his house to go get your groceries?
Around 9:30.
Around 9:30. What time did he arrive at your house?
He got there around 10:30.
10:30. And then what happened?
And then we visited a little bit, and then we had lunch around 12.
Okay. And when did Gerald leave your house?
He left at 1 to 1:30-ish.
So you had contact with Gerald from 9 a.m. to 1:30.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, your witness.
Did you have any contact with Gerald after 1:30?
No.
Did Gerald talk to you about going to school that day?
No.
No. So Gerald saw Roger's tools, but he wasn't at the school. So how did he see Roger's tools if he didn't go to the school?
Not Gerald, I don't know. He never mentioned to me what he was doing that day. We pretty much just chit-chatted over lunch.
Okay. And you never saw, when was the last time you saw him after he dropped off your groceries?
One, when he left my house after lunch.
That was the last time you saw him on Saturday?
Yes.
Did you see him later that night?
No.
All right, no further questions, Gerald.
Defense, would you like to redirect?
No.
Do you have any other witnesses?
Yes, the defense would like to call Gerald Harding to the stand. All right, Gerald, did you have any intent of leaving the school?
No.
Can I grab the paper? Of course. Is this toolbox yours?
Yes.
Did you use it to fix the boiler on Saturday?
Yes.
And why were your prints on the toolbox?
I was using it to fix the boiler.
Do you know why Roger's fingerprints were on your wrench that was inside of your toolbox?
I saw him there on Saturday morning with my toolbox and wrench.
And what do you think of your job?
I enjoy working with the kids. It pays pretty well, it's what I know. Some of the kids are bad, but I like them all.
How often did you work?
I work a split shift from 5 to 9 and 2 to 6, Monday through Friday.
Okay. And why do you need to work?
I mean, I need an income.
Because you're also paying for...
Yeah, I'm also supporting Barbara, my ex-wife.
Okay. When did you go to the school Saturday morning?
About a little bit before 7.
All right. Did you work on the electrical box that Friday or Saturday?
No,
No, you did not work at the electrical box.
no.
So you don't know how these gloves got there?
No.
And why did you write in your journal that Roger was in the school on Saturday?
I saw him there on Saturday in the boiler room, and then I saw him leave.
Where did you leave your gloves Friday night?
I usually leave them in my toolbox in the Y shop.
Did you pick up your gloves and toolbox up for work on Saturday morning?
Yes. I had to go in to fix the boiler on Saturday.
Okay. Did you leave your gloves with the toolbox again on Saturday?
I mean, I usually do.
You usually do. When did Barbara call you to get your groceries?
It was probably about 9 a.m.,
Okay, and what time did you leave your house?
about 9:30,
And when did you arrive at Barbara's house?
about 10:30.
And when did you leave her house?
We had lunch, so probably like 1 or 1:30.
1:30. Did you go home after that?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Prosecution, your witness.
So, what time did you say you saw Roger at the school?
About 7.
What time did he leave?
I mean, I saw him leave right after I got there, so probably 7:10. Looked out. He didn't see me.
Okay. And your ex said that when she called you at 9 a.m. you were at home. And you said that you usually work 5 to 9, meaning you should have still been at the school.
I work 5 to 9, 2 to 6, Monday through Friday. That was a Saturday, and I was in to work on the boiler.
And why were you there to work on the boiler? You
Because-
said in your statement that you don't like to work on 6. You don't work at all on Saturdays.
Right. Betty Richards kept bugging me about the boiler, so I went in to work on it.
Okay, but Betty Richards has been complaining to you about the boiler for months. Why on Saturday did you go in?
It's hard to work on when students are there, so it was the only time that I could go in.
Okay. So if the superintendent knew that Roger was coming in Friday night to work on the boiler, wouldn't you assume that you also knew?
They don't tell me anything. The superintendent didn't tell me anything. They don't communicate with me.
So when you went to go work on the boiler, wasn't the boiler already fixed since Roger did it Friday night?
I checked things out, and it seemed to be working.
So how long were you at the school for then?
Probably till about 8.
So you were there for about an hour? And it took you an hour to realize that the boiler was already fixed?
Yeah, I had to check things out, check all the levels, test the different temperatures in the rooms.
So what did you need the electrical box for?
I just have my tools in there.
And did you ever need any of your tools during that time?
Yeah, I used some different tools. I don't really remember what I used.
So nobody clarified to you that Roger already worked on that Friday night?
No, nobody tells me anything.
No further questions, Your Honor?
Defense, would you like to redirect?
Yes, please. Gerald, when you got to the school, you said that you got there at 7, and then you saw Roger and he left about 7:10. Did you start working on the boiler anywhere between 7 to 7:10?
No, he was in that room. So I took a while to get there, put my stuff away, and then I heard some clanging and noises, and I noticed he was in there. But right after that, he slipped out.
And you were 69, correct, at the time of fire?
Yes.
Would you say, for an older gentleman, that you were able to walk fast?
I mean, I get around.
Yeah, a bit slow though.
Slow it down.
Is it hard to walk up some stairs sometimes?
It
to
takes
slow
me
you
a while.
down?
Yeah.
Okay. No further questions, ma'am.
Defense, would you like to call any more witnesses?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. We will take a brief 5-minute recess. Session. Prosecution, can we get your closing statement?
Yes, Your Honor. You forgot to print it out, so that's it. Your Honor, members of the jury, I will present the closing argument for the plaintiff. You have heard the testimonies from Roger, Annette, Ben, Betty, what's Gerald's ex-wife's name? Barbara, and Gerald. If you have not concluded by the evidence, let me clarify for you. Annette said that Roger did not go to the school that day that she knows of. They went to breakfast, and they went to supper. Ben mentioned how malice and mean Gerald was to the students. There's a motive. There's his means of why he would want that thing gone. Betty clarified that she did not write that planner. So whoever wrote that planner was out to put Roger in a bad frame. Barbara got called at 9. Gerald also said he fixed the boiler. The boiler was already fixed from Friday night when Roger was there. Gerald also said he left the gloves with his toolbox. If Roger never went to the school that day, obviously Gerald did not leave his gloves by the toolbox. He left them the last place he was. Gerald also claimed in his witness statement that he chased Roger out of the building. But on the witness stand, he said that Roger sneaked out without him seeing. A lie on the stand or a lie in the witness testimony? That we will never know. Miss Richards' planner has the same ink as Gerald's journal, and Betty said she didn't write it, but it has the same swoosh on the signature. Review this evidence and take into account everything you have heard today. The defense is trying desperately to grasp at straws, to poke holes, to detract away from their client's guilt. I submit to you to find the accused guilty. Thank you for your discussion. Don't clap.
Defense, you may begin your closing statement.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I am Hannah Gorant, and again, I am the defense attorney for Gerald Harding. We would like to extend our gratitude to you all for appearing to take decision in this significant case. The subject of the matter is simple. Why would Gerald Harding burn down his one source of income? Why would he take away his ability to provide for himself and his ex-wife? Barbara Harding is unable to work, and Gerald pays for many of her bills. Destroying the school is not only harmful to himself, but to her as well. My client is old, and he needs the money that the school provides in order for himself and his long life rent to survive. The prosecution wants to weave this far-fetched story that my client is guilty. They say that he is framing Roger. But the truth is, if Roger woke up at 6 and Annette did not wake up until 8:30, he has no alibi for where he was between that time. Also, in the witness statement, Roger says this. I was down there on Friday working on the boiler at the high school. But if you remember, when sitting on the witness stand, Roger said that he had also worked on the electrical box that Friday night. He could have been testing it. He admitted that he knew what a corrupt boiler in the electrical box looked like. Then Roger goes to breakfast with his girlfriend, and he leaves at around 10:40 and wasn't seen again until 5. So where was he? There is no proof of where he was. There's no alibi. The truth is, the prosecution has no conclusive evidence against my client. They're pulling at straws to gather incriminating evidence. My client was confirmed to be busy from 9 to 1:30. The prosecution then must be suggesting that around that time, after 1:30, Gerald went in and started the fire. In order for Gerald to do that, he would have had to go downstairs, for that's where the boiler room is. He would then have to start a fire, all the while breathing in the harmful smoke that would most likely give him problems. Then he would have to make it back up the stairs, and he confirmed that he had trouble getting up those stairs. He confirmed that he had trouble getting around sometimes. And then he would have had to leave the school before any firefighters or police department found him. and he'd have to be at another place. I believe my client is unable to do that. He's 69 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, my client is innocent. There is no way for the prosecution to positively prove that he is guilty. My client cannot be convicted without reasonable doubt, and there's plenty to doubt in this case. Gerald Harding spent his day helping out his friend, and he had no reason to endanger her living as well as his own. He had no motive. My client is not guilty. He is innocent, and he would not commit this heinous act against his place of work. Thank you.
I will now read instructions to the jury. There are two kinds of evidence, direct and circumstantial. Direct evidence is when a witness testifies directly of his/her knowledge of the main facts to be proven. Circumstantial evidence is proof from which the jury may infer other and connected facts which follow according to common experience. Both direct evidence and circumstantial evidence are acceptable as a means of proof. Neither is entitled to greater weight than the others. When circumstantial evidence is susceptible to two interpretations, one that supports guilt and the other supports innocence, the jury determines which is more reasonable. In deciding the believability and the weight to be given the testimony of a witness, you may consider the evidence of any other statement or statements made by the witness, which is inconsistent with the witness's testimony at this trial. This evidence may be considered by you for the purpose of testing the believability and weight of the witness's testimony or to establish the truth of these statements as the jury shall determine. A person commits the offense of arson if, by means of fire, the person knowingly or purposely destroys a structure that exceeds $1,000 in value, which is property of another without consent. To convict the defendant of arson, the state must prove the following elements. The defendant, by means of a fire, destroyed a structure that exceeds $1,000 in value belonging to Fallon County, and that defendant did so without the consent of Fallon County, and the defendant acted knowingly or purposely. If you find from your consideration of the evidence that all of these elements have been proved beyond a reasonable doubt, then you should find the defendant guilty.
Bailiff, you escort the jury into the jury room.
Okay.
Okay, well, I mean, this was good, but there's like a time like between 1:30 and 5 o'clock where there's no alibi,
saying
no
he-
counting
I
except
just
for
started
his
recording.
word saying that he went.
I'm not saying he didn't start the fire, I'm saying I feel like he didn't set it in with the intention, but I feel like he's covering up the fact that he started
Alright.
the fire by.
Either way, that's
Yeah, either way.
They started talking, so I'm recording.
That's
I
good.
do.
Here's the
Either way,
evidence.
that's
Yeah, I
fine.
feel like he didn't start,
Okay.
but he saw what he could gain from the situation by.
That's
he-
still guilty.
Well,
Yeah.
this here,
Well, he didn't.
That's what
Talk
we're
to a
saying.
lady
He's
and I'll be
saying-
back.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, that was also another thing with both the same handwriting and same ink. That was also very sus.
Okay, can you pass me the letter so I can read his journal, his inner thoughts?
Yeah, go
Thank
ahead.
you.
then there's another of the,
That's the same one. This one.
That's exotic.
you can't see anything on that.
It could have been forged. Maybe
Does this thing, yeah, his gloves are right here.
He needs to work
You
on his
can't really see
handwriting.
him
That's
because
this is
there's
a crime in
Also,
itself.
And if you look
also,
through-
there's,
keep in mind that Roger was also unaccounted for
Yes.
for like 2 hours.
Yeah, they both very well could have worked together. But who is being tried right now? Is it?
It's Gerald.
Gerald.
Gerald's being
Why?
indicted.
Oh,
Not
Roger
Roger.
doesn't hit me as somebody that would start that fire.
He's working as an electrician, not trying to make a life for himself.
But if-
Well, he also said he knew what the faulty box looked like, and they never.
Roger said
And-
that or Gerald? I forgot.
Roger said that, and the next day, how was the fire started? The faulty wiring in the
faulty
boiler
wiring in
room.
the boiler room.
Mhm.
Faulty wiring.
And so that's faulty, and he said, "Oh yeah, I checked it," but then how did that whole situation come to be?
Well, think, why would Gerald burn down his only source of income for him and his friend? He's like 69 years old. It's not a lot of jobs he can get.
But if he works at the school, it'd be
If he was being treated poorly, that would be another one, I guess, because he did say that the administration does not tell him anything like what's going on, so you can obviously see that he's underappreciated in that sense.
Okay, so
Who's the foreman? Travis?
Yeah.
What's that?
should we
See the electrical box.
do a vote real quick just to check where we are?
Sure.
Not the one that was on fire.
Calling for a vote. Those of guilty, raise your hands. Not guilty. Okay, 42.
Well, this whole thing looks like a mess. I feel what I'm getting from all of this evidence, both sides are kind of attacking each other's opponents, but the facts of the case, it doesn't feel like they started this on purpose. There is nothing to gain for this for both parties.
But they very well could
Are
be
you
coming together
thinking-
to cover it up.
You thinking it was an accidental fire?
I'm thinking it might be an accidental fire and then they,
But they knew that they started the accidental fire. Or set the events in
they were
motion.
aware of it and tried to cover. I feel like he would have said something instead
Yeah,
of
and I
getting
feel like
charged
that's-
with.
If that was his only
that would,
job.
but he would be innocent of arson, but he would be guilty of covering up evidence.
And probably
Yes.
neglect.
Yeah, but we're not charging that. We're asking, is he guilty of arson? And I don't believe he is.
Well, if he covers
Well,
it up,
if he
wouldn't it,
covers
tec-
it,
if he wouldn't it
Nope.
technically make him guilty of arson? Though?
Nope, he would just be incriminating himself by hiding the evidence that he was there.
He'd be obstructing the investigation.
Yeah, so what is right now would be arson.
No, he did, arson's
so-
with the intention of burning something down.
But that's already too late for him.
Yep, and he didn't burn it down, it was an accidental fire. He did not start the fire, but he just,
Yeah, so
He's covering it
I
up.
say he's not guilty of arson, but guilty of the other stuff.
yeah, and since
It'd be
they're
a
not
whole other trial
charging him,
then.
this is where I'm thinking of it.
That'd be a whole other trial.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could read his journal.
Yeah, I can't read that handwriting.
Can you
That
read
is
Tracy?
sinful on
And
a
it's very tomorrow.
Do you want me to try to read it?
Is it your
Yeah.
handwriting?
No, it's not mine.
Oh, I would have felt terrible if I was.
That's
I-
the actual.
Sebastian,
Oh,
Mrs.
that's
Rost
very
over here
excellent.
now.
That's
Yeah.
the actual.
I was like,
It's
Today was quite a head scratcher. I had a very something doing. Oh, maybe I can't. I made soup for the students the night before. I was just going back to the basement
so maybe he left.
boiler when I saw Roger Charles walking in from out of the basement. You could tell he wasn't supposed to be there. He was moving slow, going slow, and looking around, sneaking maybe, and looking around constantly to see if he was being watched. The lights were all off because it was a Saturday, so he wouldn't have known I was there. I watched him slip into the boiler room with my toolbox and heard clanging noises. I was about to start yelling at him when he slipped out and went up the stairs. I peeped into the room to see if anything was amiss, but everything looked fine. I just figured he was pulling another one of those stupid pranks. Then after I went home, I heard the school caught fire. I'll be so sad to see it go. I love my job and I always enjoy chatting with the students. That something Roger though was always a little troublesome. I'm wondering if he had something to do with that fire when he was fiddling with the boiler. Well, I guess the police will just have to figure it out. Poor kids are probably gonna miss that place almost as much as I am.
And do we know who turned on the, beep beep?
Fire alarm.
Fire alarm.
They said
Betty called it in, didn't she? Or Barbara?
No,
Somebody called it in.
I thought,
But it's Gerald pulled the fire
Gardner.
alarm, didn't he? Is it Gerald that pulled the fire alarm?
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Where was,
Okay.
that was what the
The
opening
fingerprints
statement
We didn't
said.
tell them. I can, the fingerprints were, Gerald's fingerprints were on it, and the fire department report said that the alarm was delayed, and that caused extra damage because it was delayed.
It was Gerald.
Yeah, that seems pretty sus.
I don't know if they said that, but
Well, what I would say is you need to go look at the evidence and and what implicates who. Like, so look at what you have, and then what does each of those pieces of evidence, who does it point
Do we
to?
have, can we write stuff down?
Yep, you can.
Do
Matching
you,
Let me go get your pen.
I don't have
Points to
a
Gerald.
pen or any paper.
Yep.
Well, I guess I could.
You can write on those.
but,
the pen points to him.
Like,
Whose fingerprints are this on the wrench?
Rogers, I think.
Roger.
The wrench points to Roger.
So does the journal entry. The journal entry
Roger
also
feels
points to
like
Roger.
how
Just
it's,
point to.
The journal's Gerald.
he was also
Yeah, I
there
know,
on
what
a
he's saying,
Saturday,
how-
according to Gerald, when he said, oh, I wasn't there on Saturday. So he was doing something he wasn't supposed to down in the office, so
That or
That's-
Gerald's lying.
yeah, that's,
Or they're both lying.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like it's both lying.
but the journal entry says that Gerald saw Roger, like, he was supposed to be there, so that points to Roger. Wrench also,
like, yeah.
Wrench also, or the whatever, who also does, because had his fingerprint on it. The ink, as you said, goes to Gerald. What other evidence do we have?
So how many things did you say goes to Roger?
So far, 3. The journal entry, the
Wrench?
the wrench. No, just 2, yeah.
Okay, what about Gerald?
The handwriting, the same handwriting, which has the same ink
Matching in.
as the
Fire alarm.
Fire alarm.
Did they say whose fingerprints were on it?
Gerald.
Gerald's.
Gerald's. Then being there on a Saturday?
Also, where were the schedules? I have to
That's
remember.
his toolbox.
So-
Gerald's, it was 5 to 9,
Or 2 to 6.
and 2 to 6,
Right.
Monday and Friday. It varied.
Monday through
2 to
Friday.
6.
Monday through Friday, they varied, yeah.
5, okay.
And he was there on a Saturday when he usually doesn't go in on a Saturday.
But as I said, the board, whatever, doesn't tell anything, and he didn't know that they had already asked for Roger to fix it.
Roger could have been finishing things up
Or Saturday.
Saturday morning.
Yeah, and he did say that he went down there to check it out.
Yeah, but if he sabotaged
It
it,
looked
Gerald
fine.
should have found it, right?
Should have.
Yeah.
So Jared could have found the evidence, but
Yeah, he could have, but maybe he didn't think too much of it.
Well,
If it's gonna start
He
a
also-
fire and he was
he also
there,
told-
he would have known the.
Yeah.
Do you know when the fire started?
It was called in at 3,
It was called,
and I don't
yeah.
think the
3 in the
firefighters
afternoon?
and the firefighters didn't respond till 3:30.
Okay. So at 7:10 is when.
and that fits right in the window of when both of them are unaccounted for.
Okay. Okay.
I'm saying they both teamed up to do it.
No, I feel like if you think both of them did it, these guys, no partners would willingly go against each other and be like,
No, you
Well,
Yeah.
you only have one on trial, so
Yeah,
even if you thought both of them, there'd be a separate trial for the other one. So you can
Yeah.
only really focus on Gerald.
and
Gerald's
guilty.
He's guilty.
no,
In that
I
case-
don't think he started the fire though. He Because as you said, if he started the fire, he also said he was old, so he's kind of
So
like
yeah, it was hard to
crickety.
get around. And if he were to start the fire,
And that's down some stairs. He'd have to go up the stairs.
You ever seen Dale Boggs? That guy's like 65 or something like that.
He's
He goes,
69.
he goes and works out.
he gets around very well.
He's a crickety old man.
So then think about the witnesses. What does each witness establish, right? So who did everybody call? Right, so prosecution called Roger,
Roger.
and they called Annette, which was Roger's girlfriend, and they called Ben, who was a student to
Roger's
And then they call-
brother.
That's a character
Younger
witness.
brother.
Yeah, a character witness as to how Roger behaves. And then they called Sophie or Betty,
Teacher,
the
yeah.
teacher that had been asking. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do each of those for? What was the purpose for defense calling those witnesses?
Well, the teacher said that she kept nagging Gerald to fix the boiler for like a long time.
The
And
teacher
then-
also loved Roger.
Yeah, the teacher well, she didn't love him, but she did enjoy she liked him.
Enjoyed his company
Enjoyed
He
more
was
than
cool.
Gerald's.
Yeah. And then the kid.
But that is his girlfriend, so
Yeah,
obviously.
so she was gonna be, yeah. But, and then the student, Benjamin, so yeah, like, pretty much, Joe was an asshole
Mm-hmm.
around the kids, to everyone.
Motive.
Yeah, you want to burn down the kids' home, so you're just like, well, burn down the orphanage.
Somebody makes you mad enough for long enough, it could just build up and then you just pop.
And who was the, final witness they called?
Wasn't it
Was it Roger?
ex-wife?
The final witness was Joe.
No.
No,
wait,
not
no.
for
Roger,
prosecution.
Annette,
Oh, Roger.
Ben,
Roger.
and Betty. You got them all, I think.
That was different.
Roger was Harviano was Roger.
Yeah,
That's
it was Roger.
prosecution.
But that was kind of confusing.
So what time did Roger say he, got up? Was it say 6?
6,
Yeah.
And then
But it-
he was unaccounted for
That was witness testimony.
when?
Well, he said he had to.
He went to
I went
breakfast.
to breakfast with it with,
And then,
yeah.
what's her name said it was done by like 10:40ish.
Mhm.
Then she didn't see him again until like, what, 5:30?
5:30, yeah.
Before they went to dinner?
Yeah, neither of them were supposed to work on Saturday.
I have a feeling one of them might be stashing like some marijuana in the basements.
This is...
And then defense called. Who'd they call?
They called Gerald.
Yep.
His ex-wife.
Barbara.
His ex-wife.
Barbara.
Um,
And
Who was on? Peter James.
The only thing that didn't make sense to me
firefighter.
was why would Gerald be still caring for his ex?
Alimony, man. No, I'm just kidding.
He's like, I still love you. Crickety
But like, once you get
I mean,
divorced,
I
isn't your name taken off the life insurance?
No, not necessarily. You can leave her on.
Unless you want it all.
She kept her last name.
Yeah.
we said it's
It is.
So what, do we know the reason behind the divorce?
No.
We should have
But
asked.
they were like still friends. Like
yeah.
they
Well,
were.
and
So
the
it
other thing,
wasn't
she said she
bad.
was unable to work.
They didn't
So-
remarry, but they were still friends.
She
Like,
said
they
she was
got along.
also unable to work. She couldn't have a steady job. That's why he was
I
helping.
suppose look out for your buddies. And...
Yeah, and that's why he was
And
helping.
I'm assuming she wouldn't have any family members because she's old.
So your two alibis are girlfriends,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. A son, almost son,
A brother?
I know, but your alibis. I'm saying both Roger and Gerald's
The
alibis
both
are.
come from the girlfriend of the
Yeah.
ex-wife.
Yeah, but neither of them are airtight though.
What?
None of them are like solid. Like they're not airtight. There's still a lot of play to you like while they're both unaccounted for, roughly at the same time.
That's why I'm saying I think they both did it. So I think Gerald's still guilty, and then Roger's just gonna be found guilty in the next one.
well, by definition, we're convicting. I fully so he was there for like an hour at. He said he took an hour checking the boiler.
Is this another one of your little controversy things like you did in mock Congress or whatever?
This is not Congress.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Mock trial.
No, I was gonna say, if you're just doing
Well, for an
controversy
hour-
stuff.
Like-
An hour of checking the boiler and knowing it's already fixed. That's
But
a
he didn't
long-
know it was already fixed.
Yeah. And
Yeah, but you can know if something's working or not pretty
It
quick.
takes like
It does take an hour.
Yeah, it took him. That was a weirdly long time.
I'm
It should
saying
not take an hour to
guilty.
figure that out.
Well, like, also, like, I'm trying to remember, when did he say he took, like, wasn't
Boiler's
that
either
7?
going or it isn't.
Yeah, like.
Yeah,
there's
but
no
like,
ifs,
what
ands,
was
or
the
buts.
time of how long he took? I'm trying to
An
remember.
hour.
An hour is an hour.
No,
It's not
like, at the time, like,
It was like-
was
it was
it
like
before?
It's not like a boiler can
7
just
to
have like an engine.
7 to 8.
Roger was there from
you
7
know.
to 7:10,
Mhm.
and then after he
It's
left,
a coal burning.
So then like 8,
machine.
Gerald went in there after him to see what he did. And was checking if anything was out of place, because he said Roger was not supposed to be there.
Okay.
I mean, like,
We had
and how
no-
big is the boiler in the schools?
I assume it was probably pretty dang big.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, if you go in that room down there, I mean, it's not like.
It's a completely different boiler now, bro.
Mhm. They're
Yeah.
huge down
That's
in
because the old
ours.
one burned down.
Well, no.
I don't know.
But the old
Like-
school wasn't the old school also fairly small? And it was.
Well, he was also-
3 stories.
It was,
He
yeah,
was also
still,
old.
I mean, like small. It wasn't like it's spread out and wide and compacted.
That has
And he
nothing
said he
do
had
with
to
it.
do
It
all
was
these
more
things,
compact,
go
so
into-
you would need a big of a boiler to reach.
I
all
think
the
there
rooms.
were 8 classrooms max.
Yeah, I think.
Because there were 4 and then they added 4
in
a gym.
So do we know how the fire started?
I was just gonna ask,
Well,
where did the fire start?
In the rafters.
Wiring from.
In the rafters.
That's
What
where
the
the
rafters,
fire
what?
said. That's where it said the fire started. It was in the rafters. I don't know if I was
Oh.
supposed to say
Yeah, I
that.
was say Avery that from his thing, so we'll just. But
I
it.
don't know if I was supposed to say that, but I guess.
They started from the rafters?
Yes, the rafters.
What's
You
going
would
on?
start from the rafters if it's all the way up there, but the fuse box is down here.
Well,
Exactly.
you have
Wiring.
wiring.
Yeah, that's how wires work,
What
right?
we just learned about and.
Well, yeah, but then how could it come from the fuse box then?
A short in the, say a wire was rubbed and shorted out on a rafter, nail or.
I guess there's no wire left to see if it was like cut or something.
Well, also, I'd like to go back to the point about how long it took Roger. I'm gonna play the devil's advocate and say, what could have possibly taken him so long? So, he wasn't in any fit to, like, hurry around. He's an old man, and he's...
Probably gets paid by the hour.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's even more to take your time, and he's crickety, so he, like... I could do the thing that we watched about the old man walking around the room.
Well, if he
You're
works for the school, he's not paid by
well,
the
you're
hour.
a crickety old man, and you're just...
It's salary.
He said he's crickety. I'm gonna continue saying crickety because he made a point that he was crickety. And so, as any old person, it would take you a while to go upstairs, and you would, if you're not in a hurry, you would be taking your time walking down the hallway, checking each room, making sure. And he seems like he would put everything into his job, so he'd probably make sure it's working in those rooms. Maybe an hour is over exaggerated, but I feel like it would make sense for him to take a long time, especially with his age, his career. He probably is getting paid really well as a janitor.
Probably getting paid as good as Miss Ban is if they kept the same contract system. If we're being honest here.
Oh my gosh.
Miss Van janitor.
Am I wrong?
Call for another vote.
That's what
Alright,
He hasn't been there long.
so in the case of Gerald Harding, who is on trial for arson, raise your hand if you believe he is guilty of arson. Raise your hand if he is innocent. Okay, that's what was that, 6 to 2?
5.
5 to 2?
5 to 2.
I don't think he started the fire.
I think he started the fire.
You gotta
4 to
prove
2.
to you gotta prove to her why you think so.
I think he started the fire.
4 to 2 in the
It's just-
side.
Okay, so
and they
it's just the
decided.
things that are not
We're
adding
almost-
for me to say that he's.
So what
No.
happens if they
Okay,
We have
can't?
100.
You got
Okay.
time
This is
frame.
okay.
You got.
So should we put a time?
So-
Say we do 5 more minutes.
Very simple.
What does that similar handwriting do for them?
So he's covering himself up here, right?
Before-
in
For their lesson plans to have fun on Monday.
okay, but why would his handwriting be in Betty's? lesson plan.
I
So
have-
why would he be writing her lesson?
I have no idea, but like the lesson plan literally says we're having a good time on Monday.
That's still.
Yeah, but
That
that's
doesn't
still
make
a
sense.
cover-up.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Well, what's that covering up? That he's having an affair with Betty?
No, it's just covering up that. Okay, so good time on Monday, right? Baking day. Maybe the fire was supposed to go off then, on Monday, and the baking thing was supposed to be an accident. So he was trying to line it up, but it ended up falling out too early and falling through.
Well, then nobody can correctly guess when
You
your
can't if
faulty
you're a
wire.
criminal mastermind like Gerald.
I think you're,
Well, nobody can guess when faulty wiring's gonna happen. If you mess with it on
You
Saturday.
you can mess with it.
Yeah, why was he there on Saturday? If he,
To burn the school down.
yeah,
Oh,
but like what he's
literally.
saying, he's using Monday as an excuse. Well,
Well, he wanted to get it to go off on Monday, but he didn't do it correctly. Boom, it happened Saturday at 3.
why was Roger there if he supposedly fixed the boiler on Friday?
It's not, they're not
But
talking
the
about,
problem's not with the boiler, it's
We're not
with the
talking about
electrical.
Roger.
Roger fixed everything on Friday.
Then why
Should've.
did Gerald say he was there on Saturday then?
That fixed the
To mess with, no, not the boiler, to mess with the freaking electrical thing. The boiler is a cover up. I thought he fixed everything on Friday night.
Exactly, it should have been fixed, that's why Gerald's guilty.
Gerald's guilty because he should have known if it was fixed or not.
You tell me you take an hour to
And
see
his
if a
excuse
boiler's
is
broke.
that no one told him
To see if
that.
a boiler about, I'd say the size of this room
Is
is
broke.
working or not.
It doesn't take an hour. to
oh,
do
it's
that.
definitely bigger than just this room.
Not for the old school. For the old school, it's like, it was only,
The new ones, there's like 4 or 6 and they're like that big.
Yeah.
Like,
So I mean,
I'm saying
yeah.
for the old school, with
like
like
square.
8
Yeah.
classrooms and like a rectangle, you'd only need a boiler about this big to heat that whole thing.
Well,
8 classrooms, 8 classrooms. You don't need the 6 boilers that we need
But
for
what-
the what, 20
Okay,
something
we
classrooms
have-
that
we
we have now?
say he did do this. Why did he do it?
Because he hated his job.
That doesn't do anything. What does he get? Does his contract say he gets all this? Well, like, why is he doing this? Saying you,
Probably to
Hate
get
your
back
job.
at all those rotten kids that keep messing with him all the time. I mean, they probably try and trip him in the hallways or something like that. If they don't like him, they're gonna make it obvious they don't like him and they're gonna try to get him to quit. So he's gonna have some serious, like, stuff against them.
How long has he been working now?
30 years? 30 years.
well, like he's close to
So just say 30 years of just
retirement.
constantly
Still though, I
getting
wouldn't
crap.
be putting up with that 30 years.
30
So,
years
What?
of constantly getting crap.
Wouldn't he be like getting up in years? So he's getting closer to retirement and.
He said he
Closer
Why
to
would-
retirement, less mobile, less of a suspect. Less of a suspect.
He probably thought he was going to get away with it.
Yeah, he probably thought he was gonna get away
Who
with it.
knows?
He probably didn't even think that he was a suspect.
Oh, everybody thinks of as the person that calls in as the first suspect.
That's just common sense.
That is
But
common sense.
What if Gerald doesn't have that common sense, you know? This is the
He's
si-
an old man.
It's the 60s we're talking about here. This man probably could have served in freaking World War II. And won.
He's almost in his 70s.
World War II and won.
Sure.
Man,
Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was like 12 years old during World War I. He was making bombs in a factory. You never know.
He's crickety. He's old. He's not moving as quick. It takes longer.
it doesn't
time.
take long.
It doesn't take
69.
All you need
67.
is a well-planned exit.
when a fire starts.
I bet I bet he started the fire, put his hand on the fire alarm,
Even if he is
thinking to pull
crickety-
it, said no, waited, left.
Even if he is crickety,
Well,
the
here's the
school
thing.
was not
Maybe
gonna
that did happen, but I don't think he started this fire. I think that probably went through there's no way he wasn't there when it happened. I will admit, there's Roger and Gerald are both kind of sitting there with a lot of suspect on them, but I think genuinely, this is like the 60s, as you said, right?
Yes.
So, at that time, our technology was terrible.
Still had cars though.
We did. Were they good? Did they give us cancer? Maybe. But
Ours? Giving you cancer?
All right, let's take another vote because we're gonna have to.
Okay.
He's guilty, man.
Guilty.
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 You can be hung, that's fine.
Okay, so it's
5-2.
5-2.
We're 3 for 3 on this, man.
Let's take our time.
Well, we
Because
gotta
you're gonna
get
miss the
going
party
here
at the
soon.
museum.
What time's the party?
Now.
I know.
Pretty much.
So-
now. We gotta get going
Guilty,
here.
let's just go.
Here we go.
Oh, you can be hung.
We're gonna be
Do we-
hung.
Do we all honestly believe?
I don't want to be like the 12 Angry Men. Let's
Do we
go.
all honestly believe 100%?
I think he's guilty.
That he is guilty.
There's
Yes.
not a doubt in my mind that
I'm not
I
saying
think
I
it's
think
just
guilty.
him.
I think he saw an opportunity. He saw the fire happen. He's like, I'm just gonna let it happen. I'm just gonna let it happen, and walked out.
Okay.
So it's still
You think he would've,
intention.
No,
You-
that's just that isn't committing arson. It's just being accomplice.
he wouldn't
to
be covering
arson.
it up then?
Yeah,
If that's what happened, he wouldn't be covering up.
he
right?
would be covering it up, but that isn't. He wouldn't be convicted of arson. He would be convicted of a different crime.
You can try all you
If it
want.
was on accident, he wouldn't be.
But I'm a bullheaded human being and I'm staying guilty.
A person commits
If it
the
was
offense of arson if by means of fire, the person knowingly or purposely destroys a structure.
So if he saw
Yeah,
it
but if you
and
do
he didn't
something-
call anybody, doesn't that
No,
technically mean
listen.
he knowingly destroyed the structure?
Yes.
If you've been doing something,
To convict the defendant of
30
arson,
years.
the state must prove the following elements: that the defendant, by means of fire, destroyed a structure that exceeds $1,000 in value, and that he did so without the consent.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be arson.
He's guilty.
arson,
Okay.
guilty.
Guilty?
If you're working at a place for
Put it
30
to another
years,
vote. Raise your hand if you believe that Gerald Harding is guilty of arson.
guilty.
I'm not happy with it.
Finally.
6-1.
I just I don't. It gives